Senate has passed the 2.17 trillion supplementary budget for the 2023 fiscal year, as proposed by President Bola Tinubu. Recall that the president on Tuesday wrote to the National Assembly seeking the consideration of the supplementary budget. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, announced the approval of the supplementary budget after the majority of the Senate supported it through a voice vote at the plenary on Thursday. Joining us virtually, we have Great Imo, who is a public affairs analyst, to make sense out of all of this. Good morning, Great Imo.
Good morning.
What's your take on the 2.17 trillion naira for the supplementary? What's your take on all of this?
Well, for us as Nigerians, this is not strange, because this is, I think, for end of the year party. Money for the end of the year party, and you can even understand why the majority of members of the parliament, they are in agreement that if they first they've gotten the budget for their SUVs, the executive understands that once the boys in the National Assembly are taken care of, whatever they bring to the National Assembly, the answer will be, go on, sir. Go on, sir. And that is what is happening right now. If you look at the components of the budget, it's quite challenging because it don't reflect the basic need of Nigerians at this moment. But like every other thing in Nigeria, I didn't expect that anything would be different, because this has been the regular practice. It has been the regular practice, money for the boys, the National Assembly, then whatever that the executive brings is approved. But if you look critically at the budget, maybe you don't see literal items that may literally improve the life of Nigerians, that will improve capacity. Because what I find challenging is that we are living a rental, the economy is a rental economy. We either sell oil or borrow money. Most of the things you see repeated year in, year out in our budget and supplementary budget, they don't reflect what we need to build capacity, to improve the economy, to strengthen, local productivity. So, and you can understand the time we are in. They need to spend the money as they go into the year two. This is a time of celebrations. A lot of them need cash to go home as new entrants and regular politicians. They will be going home in their convoy of SUVs that have already been approved. To go and try and bribe some elements, some royal fathers, some political godfathers, and then we return next year and continue from where we are. That is exactly what it is.
Now, a lot of vehicles, like you said, are yet to be gotten. I mean, plus the yacht and all other things surrounding all the things that is being requested for. And the National Assembly said they've replaced it to make the student loan 10 billion naira. Do you think, what do you make of this, seeing that the presidency is saying that they are going to be on top of their game to make sure that the country moves well, that they boost the economy, and yet some of these things are being purchased, or a bill is being passed for it to be purchased? How do you see that Nigerians would actually take this? Do you think Nigerians will say, okay, yes, these people are for us, or do you think Nigerians are really not going to be happy with all of this? More like there's an imbalance in it?
Well, I will always say, I don't think Nigerians have a say on this matter. Nigerians don't have a say on this matter because yesterday I was watching a conversation over a senatorial and House of Representative tribunal judgment from a particular state, where the same panel has given contradictory judgment on different cases, almost the same facts. And one of the commentators said something that is of note. In all of this, nobody cared about what the voters wanted, who they voted for, or who they wanted to lead them. Actually, the democracy we practice is in a name, but not in a true concept. And maybe I could say it's a kind of Nigerian democracy where what the people want don't matter. So whatever be the opinion of Nigerians, I bet it will not change anything, because the three most critical institutions that are supposed to encourage the citizens to own these processes and demand accountability and insist on what they think is what they want, have all been clamped down. Outside the executive and the legislature, which are being populated by politicians, one of the institutions that were supposed to be for the people, that is supposed to protect the Constitution, that is supposed to give impetus to the ordinary citizens to demand accountability, is the judiciary. But unfortunately, you can even see what the retiring Justice Musa that Joe Mohammed have said, that the institution has been hijacked. That even within the apex court in Nigeria, that the voices of the Supreme Court judges are not reckoned with. That the Chief Justice of the Federation has clamped down on their own contribution, thereby making him the only voice to determine what happened or what happens within the Supreme Court. As supreme as that authority is, he decides when people should be elevated or not. He decides who should sit on what case or not. For instance of the judiciary, a retired justice of the Supreme Court is crying out. Then you go to the police and other military organizations that are supposed to give impetus, support, and backings to citizens. Those ones are already captured. You can see what happened in Imo State, where the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress went with fellow comrades to go and protest the non-payment and regular payment of salaries. He was battered, as high profile as he is. That tells you something. That if at this high level we still have people complaining, I I bet you that ordinary Nigerian citizen does not have a voice in what happened. We will be deceiving ourselves. I watched a brief documentary, about 2 minutes, 3 minutes documentary, where somebody was, doing a commentary on the outcome of the presidential panel on the outcome of the election, and he says even Atiku, even P2B, they all really know the outcome prior to the judgment, because Nigeria is not a country, Nigeria is a company. Nigeria is owned by certain people. That is why in the last 6 months, Naira buckled from less than 500 to over 1,000. And that has impoverished a lot of people, and there's nothing they can do about it. And that means there is a lot more revenue when that happens, because a lot more money through the systemic structure has been taken from the pockets of ordinary citizens into the public funds. Now, when these trillions are trickled into the public coffers, what you do with it is supposed to use it to improve capacity and for redistribution, to make sure that all parts and components and citizens, especially the downtrodden, are empowered to get involved in building the economy. But no, that is not what is happening. Billions budgeted for yachts, billions budgeted for first ladies, vehicles, billions budgeted for SUVs that are not produced in Nigeria for the National Assembly member. What can the ordinary person do? Nigerians, no matter what they think, no matter what they say, they can't do nothing or say nothing, because even if you complain from now till tomorrow, you really can't change nothing. And I can bet you recently, after we had a press conference as a non-governmental organization, pushing for progress, development, and democracy in Nigeria, somebody told me, he said, there have been so many names before you, young man, that have been there in the last 30, 40 years. So many of them have gone silent. He even mentioned a certain character who is supposed a journalist, a respected journalist in my own understanding. He said even when you listen to his position when he talks on television, the narrative he gives, he said there is likelihood that this person have got his own share of the money, and a young man like you keep shouting thinking you can change Nigeria. These are the kind of comments I hear every day, and I can imagine that as dedicated as I am to the progress and development of Nigeria, I have given up a lot of things, challenged so many people who could have said, oh, take and go and keep quiet. I still believe that a change can be made, but as it stands, I can tell you the honest truth. Nigerians don't have a voice. They can't determine what happened, maybe until one day, until such a time where there will be a groundswell, where many people will come together and say, enough is enough. But as it stands right now, Nigerians have been so stifled. Nigerians have been so impoverished. Nigerians have been so weakened. Their resolve have been thwarted so many a time that many people are just tagging along. Whatever be the outcome, will they give it up to the God, to the creator of their life? And that is what it is, honestly.
Okay, so I'm going to read, presenting the report. Mr. Olamilekan said the committee recommended that 18 billion naira should be approved for statutory transfers, and then 1.3 trillion naira for recurrent expenditure, and 1.1 trillion naira should be approved for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending. And then some Nigerians are saying that some of these things that are on this supplementary, that they are not really necessary. What do you make of this?
Well, 18 billion for statutory transfer to who? 200 and something million Nigerians. Why the president had approved 70 billion for National Assembly, less than 420 members, 35 billion to judiciary, and billions for yachts for president, billions for first ladies vehicles. The 18 billion for 200 million people. Well, even when we talk about capital project, I thought someone has said part of the challenge right now, part of why when we hear humongous amount of money for capital projects, they appear not to even have impact on Nigerians, apart from the fact that these projects have become everlasting projects. For the last 30 years, we keep hearing Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, we keep hearing maintenance of Third Mainland Bridge, we keep hearing East-West Road. They never leave the budget. You keep hearing Onitsha, Owerri, you keep hearing Enugu, Port Harcourt, you keep hearing Kaduna, Abuja. The same project. Meanwhile, Nigeria is a vast land, so many untouched areas. And what makes it very even challenging is that you give these contracts to foreign engineering companies like Julius Berger, ROCC, CCC, all of them owned, manned, run by foreign elements who, once you give them this money, simply filter away these resources to their own country. Assuming these companies are owned, manned, run by Nigerians and workers populated by Nigerians, when you engage Nigerian population in this construction in an acceptable value, that will make sure that the money remains in Nigeria. It will reflect the economy. Then you talk about recurrent expenditure. What is recurrent? A federal civil service that is less than 800,000 people in a country of 200 and something million. Less than 700 and something or less than 800,000 are still in the civil service. So when you talk about recurrent expenditure, you are looking at things like ink, you are looking at things like fueling, even fueling of generating sets for electricity in the office. You are looking at things like A4 papers, things that are expendables for running the economy under the civil service, from the presidency to, all those other cadres of the civil service, managed by less than 1 million people in a country of 200 million people. And there are things that you can never ask questions about anymore. Unlike roads, power generating companies that you can point to and say, oh, these things you budgeted for them, we pay for them, they are supposed to be here, they are not here. Recurrent expenditure means that their money you spend, you don't ask of 1.something trillion. And when you go to how it's being expended, from the top, you will see directors disappearing, some of them, what they call them, the lower cadres don't even get to hear or see about them. They disappear them from the top. Permanent secretaries, directors, and before you know it, even those things that are supposed to be bought and accountable are not going to be there. These monies just disappear into the various pockets, and that is what you get. We wait for the next time. That's what literally correct expenditure is in Nigeria. That's why you go and look into the annual budget, you see the same items repeated every year, and the only thing that changes is that their prices go up. It's a very challenging situation.
So in January, Buhari signed 21.8 trillion naira for 2023 budget. Adding this together with this, it's going to be like 24 trillion naira. I mean, I know Nigerians want to understand better. Judging from the debt burden in Nigeria, I mean, a country that should be looking to infrastructure and other things to boost the economy, a huge amount of this money is going to go into debt servicing. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, my dear, sometimes you wish you can stop talking, because the more things change, the more they remain the same. So, at the beginning of the year, Buhari has a budget of 21 trillion, and in the middle of the year, we have a change of government. Government has changed, but expenditure keeps increasing. And if you consider that, actually the 21 trillion budget, I don't think you have exhausted it. But the supplementary budget that is coming in, you tend to get confused why that the 21 trillion budget, because when you have a budget, it has a structure of spending. It is not something you spend in one fell swoop. That means for the month of January to December, the things you need incrementally, and literally, like you said, you have trillions being funded for debt repayment. The question would be, the debt service is not even repayment. What do we use the money for? We don't even know when we borrowed what. From accumulated borrowings to current borrowing, you keep hearing borrowings and borrowings. I just think sometimes that there is a sense in which the elites of Nigeria sees Nigeria as their occupying force. They just want to loot the country and take what they can, like invading forces. You know, when invading forces attack a country or a place, the soldiers, some of them described as soldiers of fortune, they look out for what the country have so that they can loot them, their gold, like the way Libyan gold reserve was looted, their oil is being looted. There is a sense in which it feels like the elite of Nigeria don't even have faith in this country. The elite of Nigeria don't have a sense of patriotism and ownership. Because if they do, they will look at what countries like China they are doing. They are funneling money to the private sector, doing public partnership, building companies, opening new opportunities, making sure that more of their citizens get engaged in productive venture, increasing productivity, helping their economy to build. That is why when you read a book, 100 Years Marathon, even Americans, after reading that book, have reviewed it, have done documentary on it to understand what China is doing. When you think about, when you read books, like from third world to first world, you understand what countries like Singapore, what is their motivation. You see, even as Russia is fighting a war, heavily sanctioned, you see where they are going to, talking about industrial research, you know, space travel and the rest of them, and so many other countries like that. But in our own case, you keep hearing debt servicing, and you're asking yourself, When you borrow to do something, you're a business person, you borrow money, 1 million, 2 million, 1 billion to build an industry. When you start producing and you are making profit, you start paying your debt from the profit. In our own case, what did we borrow to do? To consume, to buy SUVs, to buy yachts, to buy vehicles for first ladies, to give money to judges, to carry for president's son, to carry presidential jets around to go and play hockey, whatever, to just jamboree around and come back and ask Nigerians to sacrifice. You need to sacrifice. You need to endure while they are living larger and stifling millions of people. I bet that one day something will give. I don't know why these people are not thinking. We are servicing billions, we're using billions to service debt, trillions to service debt. The question is, the money that was borrowed, who borrowed it? When was it borrowed? Where were they invested? And you are borrowing, yet Nigeria is a country that is naturally endowed. We have sold oil for over 60 years of our existence. Oil has been in this country since over 60 years of our independence. We have had tin columbine, we have had coal, we have had gold, we have had uranium, we have so many natural resources, even not talking about agricultural input and the labor of citizens culminated into our GDP, but they keep borrowing, and they'll be borrowing, and we cannot see the outcome. When you borrow and you build industries, you build schools, you build hospitals, you build roads, you build rail, you fast track economic progress, productivity and development, you will increase the standard of living of your citizens, which is why you are borrowing, and the productive outcome will lead to what? Export, bring you more the foreign currency and shore up your value of naira, so that the productive and the capacity of Nigerians to live a better life is improved. None of this is happening. The life is shrinking. Everything is going down. But you have been borrowing and they are paying debt. And where did the monies go to? And those who have looted and stolen them as state governors, as federal workers, as federal executive, as president, are walking free. Something will give. And there is a sense in which this elite think that because we are naturally endowed, so they keep stealing, that Nigeria's mineral resources is always there to augment their stealing habit, that it will never end. That is actually the problem.
John. The federal government had originally proposed 5.5 billion naira for the education loan fund under the 2023 supplementary budget capital supplementation, but then they increased it to, and then it landed to 10 billion naira after the whole yacht incident, and they no longer need the yacht anymore, that they've added the money to the student loan. So now I want to ask, can you tell us the specific areas or the projects that you think should benefit from this project, amidst the other areas that they intend to make sure that they benefit from the project?
Well, my dear, you can imagine, look, sometimes they play on our intelligence, and that is what I find intriguing. We have given up the yacht. The 5.something billion, we give it to education loan. Because of that, we can allow them to go and spend all the other billions they budgeted for themselves. That's the way the states work. They arrange us, so we've been intelligent by half as a people. Some people will start arguing with you on that, and they're giving 10 billion. How many children out of school? I mean, basic education. a country with more than 20 million children out of school, and you are putting 10 billion somewhere, and it is for loan. The stringent measures to access the loan that we have not started talking about. It's a good thing that we're talking about student loan, but the measures people have to go through to qualify for it is another thing. But they have at least been able to use that one to wrap us into silence while they go out and spend their billions on their SUVs, and then make it look like they have done one beautiful thing, that because, oh, you shouted, we left the yard, so we don't know using the yard. So that takes your attention away from every other thing. What is 10 billion to education in a country of over 220 million people?
Actually, like you said, in 2022, UNESCO reports that the approximately 20 million Nigerian individuals of its approximately 200 million population are not enrolled in school. And this amounts to like 20% of Nigerians' entire population. And it's more than the overall population of various countries in Africa. I just wanted to put it out there.
That report confused you. Let me explain it to you. There are Nigerians who are 60, 70, 80, 50, who never went to primary or secondary school. Nobody's talking about it. When they talk about population not already in school, they are looking at children who are of school age, who are supposed to be in primary and secondary school. That 20 million is not my grandmother or grandfather who's no longer within the equation. We're talking about population of Nigerians who are young, who are now supposed to be within the schooling system, to be trained, to be structured, to be nurtured, to become productive in the next maybe 10, 15, 20 years. They are not even tested at the primary level. They are not in school. We are not talking about people, generality of Nigerians, because you, apart from the fact that we are English colonized, we can speak English somehow. We communicate in English because, in fact, let me even explain. When I did my public relations course, executive course, we happened to have this interactive session where a lecturer from Reading University, UK, he was defining education for us, and he gave us opportunity, because it's always interactive. The lecture was interactive sessions, more like, and asked what's education. And a lot of us spoke a lot of English. But one singular important subject stood out in all of our days of interaction before we culminated to an answer, was that education simply means learning principles for solving human problems. So we have children who are not either in technical colleges, who cannot read or write, because being literate in actual sense does not mean education. If you can read or write Igbo, Yoruba, French, Mandarin, that's Chinese, you are supposedly literate. But when you don't have knowledge for solving human problems, you don't have education. So who are they going to be the engineers? You have education where, how can you have over 50 years of Nigerians literally educated, but we can't build our bridges. We can't construct our airports. We can't even repair even our military vehicles, helicopters. So what is education? We can't even govern ourselves. We have education, we regulate and kill ourselves before we even count the votes. Education, learning principles for solving human problems. So let's even say that a lot of Nigerians are literate because they can read and write English. So we already consign them into a bag of educated people. Yet, what is the productive outcome of education? Because these people read and write English does not mean they're educated. Now, we have now swept them into educated column. Let's now go to where the challenge is. These 20 million out of school are children who are supposed to even learn how to read and write to start with, having the communication ability to be able to interrogate life before they can even arrive at learning principles for solving human problems. They are not in school. So these 20 million we're telling you that our children who are going to become adults in the next 20 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, in the next 5 years, that are supposed to be the engineers constructing our roads, building our bridges, building our skyscrapers, building our culverts, developing, repairing our vehicles, aeroplanes, tractors, and the rest of them. They are nowhere to be found. A population larger than so many countries of the world. They are being, railroaded into a future without a plan, without a vision, without guidance, without any opportunities already. So you have these problems waiting in future where these are going to become the future of Boko Haram, the future of no government, the future Agberos, whatever. That is actually the challenge. And then we give Patrick 10 billion. We want to clap. Somebody wants you to clap for president and his boys that they've done something. We have lost our senses. We have lost our senses, honestly.
Thank you so much, great Imo. We also, up next please stay with us. We have other topics that we're going to be treating today as well. The EFCC story. Up next on VOP this morning, Olukayode bans night parades by operatives. Details in a moment.